And if you listen to the station, which I know you do, that's why you're Tolos.
God bless you all.
This doesn't. I got to ask you, Tolos. Does this come as a surprise this season? Because
Great question.
We've documented this all off season. I would say maybe there was a couple people at the station that were like, "Hey, we could have a good season." Fred, he was like, "Hey, I'm thinking 11-ish, 10 wins, like fighting for the division." Myself, I want to say like Chief. We were very
pessimistic
thinking about the team. Like, I don't think the team's gonna be good. Now, I don't think I thought it was gonna be this bad. Like 3 wins. I don't know if they might win another game, getting beat by 30, 40 every time at home.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't think this roster is good. So I wonder from you guys, did y'all see this coming, or has this season been a surprise? Now, don't use hindsight and be like, well, yeah, because before the season, is your expectations being met or falling short?
I mean, look, I'm going to tell you right now, I mean, I did a decent amount of radio this summer after I latched on with the 105.3 in late June. And, yeah, I mean, this was kind of the feeling I think a lot of people had, that this was their worst case scenario. And I kind of rode the fence a little bit because getting up to speed on the Cowboys and everything that went on this offseason, I felt like you had 2 situations that could play out. One where you win 10, 11, 12 games, 12 being the high point, and, this team balls and
Micah Parsons, DPOY.
Micah's balling, Overshown. And, of course, we didn't know Overshown was going to be what Overshown was. But, if you'd have had that kind of performance from these 2 dudes.
CD and Dak are one of the best.
You're
again.
right? Like that. Like, what you got?
So this was said by Brad Sham literally before the game even started. And if this doesn't sum up exactly what you were just saying, Fred.
Okay.
This game this week calls to mind for me the old adage, never ask what else can go wrong.
Yeah.
Because the Cowboys are finding out.
Yeah. No, I mean.
And if that wasn't like an ominous foreboding of what was to come, I can't tell you.
No, I mean, it is. You had two options, right? You had the whole, like, hey, everything clicks, and we have a continuation, and guys play like we think they could potentially play, versus the juxtaposition of what you've seen.
All the rookies you're relying on not panning out or just not being ready.
And you could argue, I mean, look, outside of, Guyton's been rough. We get that. And of course, he missed a game. He was out yesterday. You've had
Kalen Carson getting absolutely picked on.
Carson,
but that's a 4th-round guy. Like, most teams aren't
4th or 5th.
Actually,
I was going to say 5th-round pick, isn't he?
Most teams aren't relying on that. He might be their second-string guy that comes in, showed a lot of promise.
He was never meant to be in that starting role, right? I mean, that was what Deron Bland was supposed to be, and it looks more and more like Deron Bland may not play this year.
Correct.
Okay, because you're at that point now. God bless Trayvon Diggs. Finally looked like the Trayvon Diggs we thought he was going to look like. Now, granted, it took till week 10 to do it, but hey, better late than never. Micah looked like Micah that we've all come to know and love, and so that was cool to see.
Kendricks, to me, hasn't really been a standout. He's just been kind of holding the water.
He is what he is, right? And that's the thing, is that for anybody that thought, okay, you're going to get, I mean, he's what, year 10, year 11 as a middle linebacker? I mean, when you're going to the well for linebackers and when you're going to the well for middle linebackers in year 10 and 11 who are in their 10th and 11th year, yeah, that's a problem. Like, you're doing that because you've already got a guy, but you're doing him to backfill. Like, if Eric Kendricks was the backup to the middle linebacker and he was providing you that depth and that veteran leadership, give me number 5-0 all day. Oh, wait a minute. You mean to tell me he's got
the green dot.
This guy's got to play 80 snaps a game? Like, what? Yeah. And God bless him. He's doing the best with what God gave him, but you saw what God gave him yesterday in year 11.
I just
Saquon Barkley, looked at, he's, he's still getting clubbed upside the head by Overshown. That was your defense in a nutshell yesterday at times.
I mean, there's just the main thing I look at is what I mentioned a second ago. You just got a lot of rookies you're relying on to play integral positions of your team, especially on defense. Which is a problem.
You can't expect, it's okay to have a little depth. It's okay to have a first or second, third guy, but you're not going to get that lucky, like you're the Rams, or somebody like that, where you're going to have a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick that's going to be a, reliable starter and or backup. Okay,
especially when the rest of the team around him is falling apart. So it's not like, hey, I can lean on this really good player to my right or left.
Yeah,
it's like, no, that guy's looking at you too. Like, what's the play call? What are we doing?
Absolutely.
It's like, I don't know. I'm learning on the job.
You're learning a new system, and Trayvon's had his issues, and so you've just and Donovan Wilson. I mean,
the secondary's been bad.
He's and God bless you. We just got done listening to Malik Hooker.
Great humans, but
he's a good dude. Hey, let's go. If you're of that type, go have a beer with him, go drink a cup of coffee with him. It sounds like he bowls now and golfs, and I'm sure that's fun. Great. Okay, but right now, as my secondary guy, no, it's not good.
I think the Donovan Wilson, I texted you during the game. I'm sitting right next to Chris Arnold, right next to Brian Broaddus and Wooly Bully up in the press conference. And it was just like every time you're like, man, this player is getting dogged or picked on.
Cooked.
Then it's like, all right, now they go to Donovan Wilson, who, for all intents and purposes, forgot that there was a guy in front of him. Jalen Hurts is scrambling. Donovan Wilson is, I don't remember what tight end was in at the time. And he just stands behind him as if Jalen Hurts cannot rifle it right to him, and he just stands behind him and tackles him.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
He tackles him after he had it for 2 seconds in the end zone. I'm like, Donovan, you could have broke that up.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He scrambled for 10 seconds, and the tight end, all he did was run a curl route in front of him.
Stood right next to him. You literally just stood right next to him. I mean, it is a weird deal. And again, look, you don't want to say this team's quit on anybody, and I don't think they have. Me and Broaddus and the crosstalk, we all discussed this during the crosstalk, and I get it. Guys are, the vacation conversation is the indifference is gonna start settling in a lot sooner rather than later. But yesterday, and of course in typical Jerry fashion, he was asked, would you ever get rid of a coach mid-season, which that's what everybody wants to discuss right now, because everybody wants some sort of vindication. This was Jerry talking about whether he'd get rid of Mike McCarthy or not.
I changed coaches in the season with Wade, and have always regretted it. And as a matter of fact, I made a change with Chan Gailey after 2 years. I regretted that. That's not enough. You need to give yourself a chance. I've had a lot more rope than that in my time. I haven't had anybody pulling that short on me.
But that Wade team was 1-7, right? I mean, when you made that change.
Well, but still, what are we? 3-6. Okay. Well, that's better. That's better math, but I sure don't sit around and say, well, now we get -2 more and we're going to be in there. I really don't.
Yeah.
And no, I just, Mike's a heck of a coach. He's a great coach in my mind, and has and should have the opportunity to do better than we're playing right now. So I'm, like I said, I haven't had good experience changing coaches in the middle of the season.
Look, I totally understand where he's coming from, right? I mean, and okay, so even if you did get rid of Mike McCarthy,
nothing changed.
I mean, what are you doing?
The only reason you get rid of Mike McCarthy is if the guy you're trying to bring in is on some kind of time constraint, which I don't believe, and we're going to get to that at the top 5. I don't believe any of the guys you're going to bring in are any time constraint.
No, they're absolutely not. I mean, and it's not like you're going to hire, because you got to go through the whole Rooney Rule anyway. Yeah. So it doesn't.
Might as well just let him play out his contract.
Yeah,
and you can learn a lot about your locker room.
Well, I mean, I think you kind of already know that.
But like guys like, and we're going to do a segment like this with Bobby, of the guys that you kind of want to build around later this week. Like guys like Jordan Lewis, to me, every time I've been in the locker room, every time he's done press, stand-up guy with all the stuff going on around, has never put down a teammate, has never been like, want to throw blame, was like, we've got to be better. He's been one of the guys that have talked about the discipline. So I think in a season like this where, yes, there's a lot of blame to be thrown, you can figure out which guys, hey, do we want to build around? Obviously, the season is lost. We can rip the Band-Aid off. I don't think any...
Oh, no, season's... I mean, this is a done
I don't think any fan is like, well, if we win the next 2, man, make a little playoff push. No. It's done. So at this point, you're evaluating for next year, and you're trying to figure out who is going to be on my roster moving forward if they're not already under contract.
I mean, look, I think there's a lot of guys you're going to have to keep. I mean, I don't think... Look, this team's not in a position to start really... And this is the kind of the difficulty of it all is, you talk about who you're going to build around. Like, you kind of only have so many options, okay? Like, I mean, you really do. I mean, you can't, this team can't afford to make wholesale changes. That's the problem. When you have, $100 million wrapped up into 2 guys, and one of them is an aging, who's only going to get less mobile quarterback, okay? You've now got Kirk Cousins at quarterback, okay? And what's the knock on Kirk? Can't run. Does anybody in there... Dak didn't want to run this year already.
And the one time he did.
And the one time he does, okay, hey, great, you gave us 22 yards, and then your hamstring popped off the bone. So what, do we really think Homeboy's going to run next year? At $60 million a year? That's the guy? I mean, look, and again, and of course, everything that we talk about when it comes to Cowboys comes with an asterisk. Why? Because easy, plain football decisions that you would expect a normal GM or a normal football team to make isn't going to happen with the Cowboys. Like the idea that you would draft Ashton Genty in the first top 10 would be crazy in most cases. Cowboys just might do it. Like you could have Shador Sanders sitting there and the Cowboys would take Ashton Genty. Like that's the kind of football nonsense that you have to put up with where this team's at right now.
And Ashton Genty was the popular pick going into the first couple weeks of the season.
Man.
But at this point, that's not your biggest problem. It's not their running back situation. Who's going to block for him? Who's going to get a better play call? Who's going to be throwing the ball? Who are the receivers to take the stress off of the running back? Who's stopping the run on the other side? Like Rico Dotto, honestly, on the offense outside of CeeDee Lamb and Tyler Smith is probably your least worry.
Yeah, he's your only playmaker right now. He's the only guy not named CeeDee Lamb right now. And of course, CeeDee Lamb you don't have to worry about right now. Really, if you think about it, I mean, what you worry about Cooper Rush getting the ball to him? You worry about Trey Lance getting the ball to him? I mean,
6 catches for 24 yesterday.
I mean, here's the deal. This thing could get. I mean, look, we think it's bad right now. This thing could get a whole lot worse as the season goes on. All right, because Philly kind of took their foot off the gas a little bit in that second half.
I mean, the starters were out.
They took Kenny. I mean, it was Kenny. Me and you joking around. I was like, I didn't know that we needed to see. I didn't know Kenny Pickett versus Trey Lance was the quarterback battle we all needed to see yesterday with 10 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. So you had a Philly team that took their foot off the gas, and really you can thank Tampa Bay for that.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to be Chris Godwin, right? Like nobody wants to lose a valuable member of your team.
And
you're up.
Brian made a great point. He said the team that's the most mad about this is probably Washington. Because isn't that who Philly plays on Thursday?
Yes.
And so they're probably like, dang.
Oh, they got beat up yesterday too.
And they played a grueler against the Steelers. And now you got Philly pulling their start
game. By the way, anyway, I want to say who picked the Steelers. Who had the Steelers in their top 5 last week? Okay. Anyway, we digress.
Yeah, I had Washington and
yeah, how'd that work out? How'd that work out for you?